UNDERWRAPS. Today we've got Neil. I don't know how to pronounce your surname properly.
Geyser.
Yes. Okay. So we've got Neil Geyser, and if you don't know Neil, then I don't know where you've been in the whole mixed martial arts community, because this man's the man to know. Neil, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
I've been fortunate enough to train 7 world champions. Guys like Boyd Allen, Martin van Staden, Chef Norman Wessels, Gareth McClellan, and a host of other guys, Demart Pena, to name a few. So I've been involved with them for a long time. I'm still involved with Soldier Boy, Gareth McClellan. I'm the head coach for an upcoming fight that he's got with Brendan Lazar in June. And I think I've cornered about 50 EFC events, or just over 50 EFC events, and 3 UFC events. Coached and cornered 3 UFC events.
What I found most interesting is the fact that you didn't even start in the mixed martial arts. You started as a tennis player, right?
Yes, I did.
If I'm correct?
Yes.
What happened? Such a drastic change. That's like playing golf, from playing golf to playing rugby. Like, why is such a vast difference?
As a kid, I started really young with karate, and there was a little incident at the karate school, and I punched somebody, and my dad took me out. He's like, "No, this is not good for you." And I played rugby, I played tennis and cricket, all sports, so I didn't have to study. Okay. And eventually, tennis was the one thing that I really had a passion for, and I started playing club tennis, I think, when I was 11, and went all the way through. When I was 18, I went to America, stayed there for 3 years, and played out of South Carolina, Vandermeer Tennis Academy, and travelled. I did my professional coaching certification there, and then decided to come back to South Africa. But on the tennis scene at that stage, we didn't have a lot going on, so you came back from that to playing club tennis, and I was frustrated, and I decided it's time to start with martial arts again, and I wanted to do something that was going to challenge me physically, conditioning wise, but also I like the physical element, so physical with somebody, that type of situation, the mindset around that. Mm-hmm. And I started boxing. Okay. And I did some boxing. There's actually a story about that. I did some boxing. My wife at the time didn't enjoy the boxing too much. Okay. And some of the places that I needed to go and box and stuff, and she said, no, it's not going to work. So I did some kickboxing. Apparently at that time, if you kick 6 times, then you can box after that. so I did that. I did a few fights, and then I saw a UFC fight. Okay. And absolutely random, one night at a braai. I think it was Matt Serra and Karo Parisian. Okay. So it's a JITSU and judo player, and they went at it, and it was amazing. And I saw this, and I was like, okay, I've got to go and try this. And I went out, try and find a jiu-jitsu school. At the time, it was really hard, and I found a judo school, and I think I fell in love with it. First time I went, I was like, this is my thing.
That's where you started, eh?
Yeah.
So you've got a black belt in judo and in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I do.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
How many people can say they have a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu in South Africa?
I'm the only guy in South Africa.
What?
Yeah. I've got a black belt judo and a first degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've had
the only guy in South Africa that can say that. Show me another one, I dare you. Jeez. So how long did it take you? Like, you know what I don't get, right? A lot of people, apparently it doesn't take the same time for everyone to get a black belt.
No.
What determines when you can get a black belt? Like, and how long did it take you to get your first judo black belt?
So I did judo, and then I think 6 weeks after I started judo, I found a jiu-jitsu school, but it was like 50 kilometers away from my house. And then I went and I took the drive 3-4 times a week, 50 kilometers one way, 50 kilometers back every night. And I started the two at the same time. Judo, it took me 7 years to get my black belt. In jiu-jitsu, it was about 10 years.
10 years? So who decides? Okay, Neil, you deserve a black belt. There you go.
I think for us at the moment where we are, to be able to grade a black belt, okay, and give somebody a black belt, you need to be a 3rd degree jiu-jitsu black belt. And we only recently got somebody that now got his, I don't think we've got a 3rd degree. I think we've only got 2nd degrees in South Africa.
Okay.
So it's always an overseas coach, a Brazilian or whoever, the guys are under, that has to come out and do the grading. So how it normally works for us is we've got a coach here that does all the training.
Okay.
And they affiliated to a coach overseas who oversees the process and comes out, does seminars, and then grades the guys who they believe is at the level. I think the thing with jiu-jitsu compared to other martial arts, if you're a white belt, you need to at least be beating blue belts or be able to tap a blue belt at least a few times.
Okay.
To be able to move up to that rank. And then for blue belt to a purple belt, the same, and then purple to brown, brown to black. Brown and black belts are pretty similar. Okay. It's just a bit of experience. But in the lower belts, it's important when a white belt starts being competitive with the blue belt, that would be the time to. But that normally, for most people, the amount of training they do, it will be 2 years on a belt all the way through. Firstly. Secondly, I mean, there's obviously a technical aspect, a movement aspect,
Okay.
a conditioning aspect that also plays into it, and a mindset. So I think 10 years is the average for most people. I must say that I think it depends on the curriculum and the teaching style as well.
Okay.
Of the school, of the teacher, the methodology they follow.
Sheesh, but Neil, it only takes 6 years to become a doctor, and it takes 10 to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Sheesh, I'm better off trying to be a doctor, man.
I've been a black belt now for 5 years. So I've been doing this for 15 years.
So you can now grade someone and give them a...
No. This year, September, I would have been a black belt for 6 years.
Okay.
So then I'll be able to get my 2nd degree. And I still need another degree on my black belt before I can actually grade a black belt. So I've had quite a few students that I've taken from white belt all the way to brown belt. And then I'll have a coach that comes out and then does the grading, or they go to Brazil or whatever and get their black belts there. Richie Kwan, Chef Norman Vessels, and Gareth McClellan I took from white belt all the way through. Richie was actually a blue belt when he started with me. Chef and Gareth was white belts at the time that we started, and they went all the way through to brown belt with me, and then after one UFC event, they went over to Brazil, got graded there by our coach, and then came back.
Okay. So now, say I'm not trying to become the next John Jones, right? I just want to know how I can defend myself. We're in Joburg. It's a very tough city to live in. I mean, I've been jacked at gunpoint. I've been jacked in the house. So there's no end to it. What martial arts can you say one could learn to be able to defend themselves, or at least stand a chance, Because I personally, growing up, karate was like the go-to thing. But now that I look at it, it doesn't seem realistic to me. And I mean, I've done jiu-jitsu for a few months. It seems over the top if you're trying to just learn how to defend yourself. I don't know. What do you think?
I would like to start at your first comment about karate.
Okay.
I must be honest with you. For some time I had an opinion about that. and I've completely changed my opinion.
Okay.
Karate, I think, is actually, if done properly or correctly, can be very effective. But it must be understood for, the purpose that you're going to apply it.
Okay.
So there's a difference between doing katas, although that's also an important element, and actually fighting and the movement around it. But it is definitely worth looking into as a martial art. I won't negate it, I won't talk badly about it. I think it is a good martial art. I do think that, like in anything, you've got teachers and teachers. Some guys are in it for the belts and they're in it for, ego and other things. There are guys that are extremely good at the martial art and they can defend themselves. And they can be, I don't want to say lethal, but dangerous.
Right,
so that's karate.
So I'm sorry to take you into the politics.
No, it is what it is.
All right.
Jiu-jitsu, I think is very effective. The thing that separates Jiu-jitsu from other martial arts is the control that you can exert when you're actually using it in a self-defense situation. I always tell people that when you punch somebody, you punch them to knock them down or knock them out. There's maximal damage when you're doing that. Also, there's an inherent risk. As you're punching at somebody, there's always that chance that something can come back at you and hit you and whatever. So there's always a risk in that because of the range that you're working on. In Jiu-Jitsu, you close the space. So you get really close with somebody and it becomes chase. And it's a thinking man's game. You have to combine, your smarts with mentality and intention and movement. And for that reason, it might seem difficult, but I can apply a certain amount of force and that I choose to restrain somebody without hurting them and in such a way that I don't hurt myself, that I can, practice proper self-preservation. At the same time, I can put somebody in an arm lock and break their arm. Or I can choke somebody and I can choke them to sleep. And then you can take that further and you can actually choke somebody and they can die. So you've got all these levels of force that you can apply, and you completely in control of which one of those you need to apply, you choose to apply, whatever. So I like that control aspect, where you can almost, whatever comes at you, you can take it, you can smother that, transform it into whatever you feel necessary. And for me, it's always about self-preservation. So if I transform that, it's about self-preservation for that moment and getting myself out of there.
So would you say then Jiu-Jitsu is the go-to martial arts if you want to learn how to defend yourself?
If you're going to do hand-to-hand combat without weapons, that's the rider. And that's the thing that people don't understand. If you're going up against somebody without any weapons, yes, definitely. If you're going up against somebody with a weapon, you've got a distance problem. If you're going up against a knife, there's a lot of fancy things out there. It's a whole nother ball game, and a gun the same, and any type of weapon for that matter. So Jiu-Jitsu's got a self-defense aspect where they do deal with weapons, but I don't personally feel that that's necessarily the best for the South African environment. Some of my friends are from MDW, the old Amok system, which is a knife fighting system. They incorporate obviously handguns, and it's a complete system. But in terms of self-defense for South Africa, that system was developed and tested. It was developed over the world, but it was tested in South Africa because we've got a very unique violence in South Africa. We're dealing with multiple attackers that you won't find in other parts of the world necessarily, where certain martial arts don't deal with that type of thing. That's but typically it can be a problem with jiu-jitsu because I'm really good at dealing with one guy, but if I take one guy down to the floor and his buddy's standing behind me kicking me in the head, it can be a problem.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's an issue. So our mock deals with that, the multiple attackers. It also deals with different levels of violence, and it is a complete system. It's something to look into. I think the guys there are Mark Human, personal friend of mine, Ian Jansen van Rensburg. Those guys they're the guys that are taking that forward in South Africa, and that's also a system that a lot of the security forces and stuff uses. So that's something that I would look into. It's something that you can become proficient in relatively quickly. It doesn't take as long to be proficient, but to reach mastery will take you longer, obviously. But I mean, you can be 60% proficient within a reasonable amount of time.
Okay. I get you. Okay, so now that's the physical side of things, right? Now, I've tried this thing out, and the hardest thing about trying to live the healthy life is eating healthy. Mm-hmm. It's the costs behind it. It's ridiculous. Like, it's easier to go into KFC and get yourself 2 pieces of chicken and chips. It's cheaper than to go into a store and get yourself a salad and tuna or something like that. You know what I'm saying? How much financial input do you need to get to the final stages or even to start? And once you're in it, is there like a financial gain to being in the EFC and UFC? Because I mean, we look at people like Conor McGregor, they've made their millions in the UFC, and promotions do make money and all of that, but when it comes to putting in money and what you get out of it, how long does it take for you to start making money? Should you even be going into the sport thinking about money? And the eating healthy part, how do you do that on a tight budget? Like, it's almost impossible.
So, do you want me to answer truthfully?
Truthfully, I want the truth. I want to know. I can't afford to be fit, can I?
Look, I'm not going to say that a fighter, and I must be honest with you, coaches as well, get paid top dollar in terms of the amount of effort that they put in, the amount of skill that's needed to actually perform, not by a long shot. And I'm not going to say amounts because it's just ridiculous. But it doesn't make financial sense necessarily. There is a point where it would make more sense, but you need to kind of be a champion in the EFC or like right up there to have a decent financial gain out of it. And then obviously in the UFC similarly. I think if you get into the UFC starting out, money's not bad, but then you're traveling very far. You probably have a training camp that you've got to pay for. If you deduct all that money, you don't actually have its living expenses at the end of the day. Only when you really, really make it, then you can have some money left over that you can invest and all of that. A bunch of the guys in the EFC had full-time jobs at one stage when I was there. Still, there's some guys that still have a job and that they can't do it full-time. There are other guys that train full-time, then they've got sponsors. So then social media becomes important and your social profile becomes important. So that's definitely an aspect. But, it's a tough one. Like, if you're in that space and you have sponsors, you've got to be winning. So if you were to lose, then your sponsors pull out. Now, I've been in situations where I had a specific fighter, I won't name his name, but he had a sponsor and he was an EFC champion. More towards the beginning of the EFCs, the first like under 10, 1 to 10 EFCs, and he lost his
sponsorship.
Yeah, from losing the title. Now, he won the title, and I think in trying to keep the title, he lost the title, and his sponsor just pulled out, and he dropped him with a monthly salary that he was paying him, an amount towards the monthly salary, and that was it. And all of a sudden the guy's got to pay stuff and he can't pay it. So it's hard. And that's what it is. I mean, sometimes that's the reality of it. So if you're doing this, you're doing it because you love it, and you're doing it because you have a dream, and you're doing it because you believe that you can be the best. Otherwise, it's a difficult one to do as a profession.
So you have a gym, right?
I do.
Okay. And so you say you train every day.
Yes.
So take me through, okay, I'm AB now, I'm coming to your gym and I want to get started. Where do we start?
Okay. So at the moment I've got a private studio,
okay,
and I do a lot of consultation work. So I travel to other gyms and help coaches and do seminars and all that type of thing.
Okay.
But if you were to come to my gym, first thing that I would do is I would like to find out what you want to achieve. Okay, because we can't do anything if we don't know where
what
you
the
want
goal
to go.
is. Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Like depending on what you want to do, and then we'll have to build a base. So all technique starts with movement.
Okay.
So we need to build a movement base. If you can move your body around and whatever in a bunch of different positions and through different variations of movement, we can start putting techniques together.
Okay.
So every technique is made up of movements that are put together.
All right.
So that's definitely one aspect of it.
Okay.
So we need to get certain movements, and then after that, and there's obviously a conditioning and a strength element.
Okay.
And then there's a skill element depending on if you're doing striking, if you're doing groundwork. Those skills are quite different. So that's pretty much what we would be doing.
Okay, for 10 years. Oh, stuff.
Not for 10 years. I knew what I was doing. I had to do grappling, so I was doing grappling for 10 years.
So, I'm going to put you on the spot right now.
Okay.
Your top 3 EFC fighters.
Yes.
I know it's tough, and you've coached a lot of them, and I'm sure you've been asked this question a lot of times. Can you pick?
I don't want to, because the reason for it is the guys that I've worked with over the years, I really respect a lot, and all of them, have immense potential. Some of them have been champions, some of them, are not anymore, some of them have retired. The current guys, I follow some of them, not all of them. There are a bunch of new guys that I don't really know that well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm working with Gareth at the moment, Soldier Boy. He's definitely one of the guys. I mean, he's a bit older, and with that comes a hell of a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And we've really done some amazing work with his game, and I'm super excited for his fight coming up, and what that's going to bring, what he's going to bring to the table. I think people are going to be surprised. So he's definitely one of the guys I think in the EFC that you can look for. I mean, he's had multiple UFC fights. He's matured as a fighter. I think physically he's in the best shape of his life. So he's one of the guys. One of the other guys I must mention that I've had the opportunity to spend some time with is Dricus du Plessis.
Okay.
And he's also a guy that went overseas, did very, very well in KSW. I've got a lot of respect for him in terms of his work ethic. I know his coaches, I know his mental coach as well, and super nice guy. They've got their stuff together, and they've got a great team. CIT is really doing well, and they've got a great bunch of guys, and they train very, very hard. So I've got a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great fighter, and he's still young, so that's great. I mean, out of CIT, there's a bunch of great guys for me that I think, older guys, new guys coming up that I'm seeing now.
Mm-hmm.
For the rest of the guys, I think I've got to mention...
Zin. Let's hear it. The last one.
Yeah, guys like Zulu Boy and Igor Cabeza, those guys that are in there at the moment. Those guys have a lot of talent. I spent some time with both of them now on the Fighter Series, and great guys and amazing skill sets. Some of the older guys, Demba Karimbo, Demart, those guys as well. Super respect for them. You got to understand that fighting's hard.
Yeah,
okay, it's hard. And these guys all have talent, but you can't. It's hard to weigh up one's talent against somebody else's because it's so different. You know, one guy's a great striker, might have a so-so ground game. Another guy's amazing on the wrestling. They're so-so on the stand-up. So you can't really compare it like that. I look at mindset. I look at conditioning. I look at skill set, and then BMT. Being able to put all of that stuff together on the night when the shit hits the fan, and you gotta put it down.
Okay, but how is it? How does it feel when you're in that corner and you need to give this guy advice because they're throwing punches at this guy and all you can do is give him advice? What? Where do you start? What do you say to a person that's in a fight? I don't know. I mean, if you answer, go back in there, do your best.
So my wife always says to me, "You're very serious."
I saw that picture that I saw. I mean, you look like you were about to walk into that ring.
That's exactly that.
Yeah.
For me, and I know for some of the other coaches that I've worked with, it is that you get into a space of focus that it's the same as, I feel the same emotions as if I were fighting. And I'm 100% focused and concentrated on looking for gaps, looking at my fighter and seeing what he's doing, assessing the other person. Obviously we have a game plan, and assessing how it's playing out, what we need to adjust, what we need to do, trying to pick up what the other guy's doing and where he's going and make sure that my guy's aware of what's happening. So I'm very focused on that. Main thing from the corner is to be calm, and it's difficult sometimes, but remain calm and if the fighter knows what he's doing and there's a decent plan or proper plan in place and he's executing the plan as he should, then it's not necessary to shout a million instructions. It's specific instructions to get specific adjustments made to be able to perform whatever needs to be performed to be successful. So out of a coaching, cornering perspective, I mean, feeling wise, can't explain it. Exhilarating, it's amazing. Stressful, yes, but for me, I transform that stressful, emotions more into focus and job at hand, and that's what's got to happen. And my job specifically is to assess what's going on and make technical decisions and tactical decisions, as it's happening.
Definitely. Oh, okay. And do you think we'll have more South African influence that side? I mean, I can't say Africa because Nigeria is doing the most. We've got Usman who's there. We've got Adesanya who's there. It's ridiculous. Nigeria is conquering the UFC slowly but surely. So do you think South Africa will get to the point where we'll have our Usmans and Adesanyas who are title holders in the UFC?
I do. I think we will, but there's some work that needs to be done. Do you have any information on those two guys from Nigeria and where they trained, after, let's say, the youth? Where did they go in before, the couple of years before they actually went into the UFC?
To the UFC, yeah. Adesanya is out of New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken, but he's been there since forever. That's where he started, actually. So it is a trend that I've seen. A lot of the guys, maybe they start in Africa, but when it comes to a certain point, they feel like they need to go outside and train outside. So why is that, though?
I'll tell you an interesting story to come back to tennis and tie this thing up, right?
Okay.
So Roger Federer,
Mm-hmm.
okay, born in Durban, South Africa, world number 1 tennis player.
Mm-hmm.
But after being born at I can't remember, it's 3 or 5, he went to Switzerland, and he was brought up in the Swiss tennis system, and he became world number 1.
Okay.
But now you can say that he's South African born. Okay, so South Africans do have the talent.
Mm-hmm.
It's the system that actually produces the champion. So we've got the talent, but we struggle with the system that actually supports the talent to be able to come through. And I think there are certain sports in South Africa we're very good with that. We've got good systems. I mean, we've got teams that compete on the world level and do well. There are other sports that are lacking behind. I was fortunate enough through my career to, I think 2011, to go to Germany for judo and train in Leipzig in the Olympic Center.
Okay.
And the things that they were doing with their junior team, 13, 17, 19 seniors, are things that we're not doing with our like Olympic team adults. We're not doing with them. And I'm talking about medical stuff, I'm talking about science stuff, I'm talking about that stuff.
Okay.
So, there's a whole system that supports from a very young age these guys to be successful. And I think in systems there's definitely a bit of a lag still for us to produce from South Africa in certain sports to get there. Come back to the UFC and us, I think we've got talent. I think we've got the talent to be able to do that. If you look genetically at our strength, at our conditioning, and our build, definitely. You can have rugby players, they can play against anybody in the world, okay? So you have to understand genetics a little bit, like different countries have different genetics. So up in Africa, you get a lot of fast twitch fibers, very strong, very fast athletes. South Africa's got the dominant South African genes are slightly different. That's another topic, but we do have the physical capability to do that, and I think that we do have mindset to do it as well. I think in the training aspect, we've got really good coaches that are spread out over the country. They don't work together. They kind of stick to their own. And what tends to happen is that we've got a skill in one thing on this side, we've got a skill in something else on a different side, and eventually we've got these pockets of skill. But if all of those skill can pull together and each one of them can build into one person, then you'll get a star. But we've got a coach that might be very good at striking. Now he's doing some grappling coaching and he's doing some conditioning coaching, and that's a problem.
So would you say we need something like, I think it's called the Ultimate Fighter, that they have that side, where you get a couple of guys who are up and coming, you put them in a house, and you bring former champions, former EFC fighters who are still able to coach, and everyone puts in effort into these guys, and we have a championship at the end, and something towards those lines where we can bring them through instead of having to go around and pick people. And
to build a fighter is not a short-term process, it's a long-term process. It's something that will take years. It's not something you put a couple of guys in a house and you get them a couple of weeks of training and they're sweet, they're ready to go. It doesn't work like that. We just finished now the EFC's Fighter Series 2, where Gareth had a team and his opponent up for the upcoming fight had a team. They were the two coaches, head coaches, and I was on Gareth's coaching team.
Okay.
And it was shot over 8 weeks, and we coached and trained them. But it's a difficult situation from a coaching perspective, because you've got 5 fighters that have different coaches, that are used to different training, that are used to different input, that have different mentalities, that was built from wherever they're from and whoever's been around them. And now you're putting them in a completely different situation where the coaches have to figure out what the best way is to work with them, and they've got to also now perform, and that in that sense it's a difficult, that Ultimate Fighter series type events is a very, very difficult thing to do. It's not easy, coaching and fighting especially. But that's not the answer. What I'm talking about is more on a coaching level of a long-term period of time, where you go to a school, and at any given school you've got a top wrestling coach, a top grappling coach, a top striking coach, and in that system you have, between the three coaches, coherency to actually all three build into the fighter, zero ego, everybody just there for the fighter. I think in South Africa you have, like I said, coaches that are very good in one skill set, but then they have to kind of do another skill set. They don't. We don't have those teams where we've got the best this and the best that, the best that, all building into one athlete and sticking to what their skill set is. To build into the athlete. So I think that's what we need. And then the mental aspect, I've said this before, that the mental aspect is extremely important, and we need these guys to work with mental coaches.
You're about to release a book, right?
Yes, I am.
And you're very much into the whole mind over matter. Like, you believe that it all starts in the mind. So what can we expect in your book? What, like, from a guy, the only guy, I like saying that. I can't believe I'm chilling with the only guy that's in South Africa, guys. But as the only guy with a black belt in judo and jiu-jitsu, what can we look forward to in the book? What can we take away from it? So
at this stage, the book is going to be entitled The Black Belt Way of Life. And
I like that.
Yeah. So the idea, I read a lot, I study a lot, and I've had this journey through spirituality and studying, finding purpose, finding all those type of things, and just my journey. And I did quite a lot of research through quantum physics, spirituality, martial arts philosophy. And I'm basically combining all of that in mindset and putting out a book talking about if you apply this mindset into your life, the black belt mindset, what that would do for you, what that mindset is, why it would be important to do that. And then all the different aspects around that. I talk about a white belt mindset and what that means and what that is. So some of the book might seem a bit deep, but I think it's definitely will be worth the read.
So do you ever watch the UFC and think, I could whoop that guy's ass?
No.
I don't believe that. I'm sure there's a guy that you look at and you're like, hey man, you better not come close to me. But would you still take it professional? Would you still fight?
No. I've had my fair share of injuries on my grappling career.
Oh, okay.
I've had 2 knee ops,
sheesh.
Airline fracture in my C4 vertebrae, broken both wrists, ribs, ruptured spleen. I can keep going. Wow. It's something for me. I want to manage my body, basically, stay as healthy as I can and strong as I can, so I can continue training. That's something I do every day. I roll with the guys every single day, and I want to be able to keep doing that. It took me a long time to rehab my body back to I can actually. I
think we know that you're gonna get beat in that octagon, but we just don't understand how extensive the injuries can get, how daunting it can be, how frustrating it can be. But with that said, thanks a lot for coming through, Neil. I really appreciate your time. One more time for the viewers, your social media handles, your website, where can they find you? If they want to join your gym and want to train with you, what's the best way to go about it?
Okay, so I've got a website up. That's probably the best place to find me is www.neilgeyser.com. NIEL.
NIEL. Don't get that wrong. NIEL. Took me a while, but I've got it.
Yeah, and I've got an Instagram handle. It's Neil NIEL _Geyser.
Okay.
You can find me there. Facebook as well. So pretty much the same. Gym wise, if you want to do a seminar, you want to do a private session, you want to do mental coaching, you'll find all my info on my social media and you can contact me through there.
Awesome. The only guy in South Africa with a judo black belt and a jiu-jitsu black belt. I just had to say it one more time. It's not every day, guys. It's not every day. Anyway, cheers. Signing out. Under wraps.